it is my pleasure to welcome you to today's monthly refresher training, which we convene every last Thursday of every month. As you know, these sessions have become a cornerstone of our shared commitment to continuous learning, professional excellence, and in strengthening of environmental practice across the country and beyond. Today's focus is on water infrastructure ESIAs, where we will focus on enabling high-quality reporting in water infrastructure projects, a topic that comes at a particularly important moment for us as environmentalists. As we all know, our role as environmental professionals is to ensure that this responsibility is upheld with the rigor, foresight, and integrity. And this is because high-quality reports, ESIA reporting is not simply a regulatory requirement, but something that we are all committed to offer for the benefit of our industry. This session is designed to take us deeper into that discipline. We will explore the engineering foundations that underpin water infrastructure, examine the planning stages that shape project outcomes, and unpack the critical components that must be clearly understood within any meaningful environmental assessments. We are privileged to have Engineer Javan Omiti, who is a registered professional engineer and corporate member of Institute of Engineers. He brings over 15 years of hands-on experience in the planning, design, and supervision of water resources and public health infrastructure across Kenya and the East African region. He has been mainly in the engineering consultancy, and his portfolio spans from dams, water supply systems, sewerage, irrigation, and hydropower across Kenya, Uganda, and South Sudan. He has been a team member for several projects that span multiple infrastructure types. For dams, he's been part of teams that design, do feasibility and construction supervision in Kenya in water supply and treatment systems. He has also been part of sewerage and wastewater treatment, irrigation systems, hydropower and mini hydro, urban and master plan feasibility studies, and he has done several landmark projects. For instance, he has been involved in Kapkaren Dam construction, Namanga Dam water supply and sanitation, Karimenu Dam water supply, Two Rivers Dam, Yatike Dam, Nairobi sewer lines, and Ketiborek Dam. With that brief remarks, members, allow me to invite our facilitator, Karibu Sana Engineer Javan, to take us through our session today. Over to you.
Thank you, the CEO, for the very detailed introduction. You say good afternoon to everyone. I'm privileged to have this opportunity to be your presenter today. And as you have been informed, I've been mainly in the consultancy engineering. So us working with your expertise is very important to us. So today, when I was preparing to do my presentation, I really asked myself what I really need to share with you, but I ended up saying that maybe I just need to explain what I do, not without thinking so much about it, and that within the discussion that we'll have, the real ideas that you want to come out from this presentation, we'll be having the discussion, and we'll be able to clarify, or at least you get something out of it. The general title is Water Infrastructure in ESIAs and Enabling High Quality Reporting. Presentation, I understand you have monthly presentations, so I titled it for the April. And I've organized the presentation in mainly in 5 parts. And we'll have part 1, the basic engineering design elements. Then there's technical planning phases. Then there's systems components for, it should be EIA. Then applicable standards that we use in doing our work. Part 5 is, if we have time, then we look at a case study. So before I go far, I think this one comes too early on my presentation, but I felt like it's good to just have an overview of what a project cycle is. In a project cycle, we have 5 different steps. And this is just so that when you are having our reports, we know that there's a wider perspective to the project, so that we are able to relate and maybe continue what started earlier. So the first project phase is generally the high-level planning, the strategic planning and project development. And you'll find that most of our projects, mainly the public ones, are funded. So they really need longer duration planning. Therefore, it takes time. So the direction that you take most likely is dictated by the master plans that we have. So in water sector, we have a design master plan that we have been working with, and it's towards 2030. It's called the National Master Plan. So some feasibility, very preliminary studies were undertaken, and therefore when a project starts, most likely it had been identified that most of them are within the master plan. The master plan is for the whole country, so the ministry, that is the water ministry, most likely will pick one and then evaluate it further. And normally the projects are grouped into programs. So even when you will be working on your report, if your project is under a program, for example, we have donors like Africa Development Bank or the World Bank. So you'll find that they have some guidelines that will shape how you do your report. So we have master plans, and then within the master plans, we pick projects and evaluate further. And then also the projects, because of public procurement and all that, there's a long public procurement procedures that are followed. So once some projects have been evaluated within a program, then now the public participation comes in. And after evaluating maybe bids by consultants who will be designing the project, then we come up with a consultant who can now take the project cycle further. So within what I'm trying to say is that if maybe a developer is proposing a project to fund, then what will shape the kind of report that we have is embedded into the planning. And even when you are evaluating and getting a consultant, that is captured in the project life. So once you have a consultant, then the consultant will negotiate and agree on the terms of their work. And then now you have a contract. Then at this point is when now you say that you have a project with a clear terms of reference with a clear goal on what we need to achieve with the project. So number 3 is the project inception and studies. And at this point is where you actually refine your methodologies, including how you plan to undertake the ESIA and all that. You map your stakeholders and all that, and how you'll be engaging each and everyone. Then after that, you go to your studies. There are desk studies, and there are also field studies that are undertaken. Then once you have your project inception, and then you have your feasibility and both desk and field studies, you go to the engineering part where the project components will come. And then finally, you go to construction and then operation and maintenance. Members, what I'm trying to say is that the project cycle starts much earlier before you actually start talking about a particular kind of project. And therefore, you may not go into detail, but it's good to monitor the project cycle so that you are able to have reports that are relevant to a given maybe objective. Then I'll go to my next slide. This is also more about project cycle, but now when you pick a kind of a project, there are categories of projects. Sorry about my numbering it's not done well. We have different levels of study, and the level of study also will dictate how much you put into your reports. We have pre-feasibility, which are very preliminary to check whether a project is viable. Then we have feasibility studies, which are a bit detailed, because once you pass the feasibility study, it may not be easier to go back. So feasibility studies are detailed, though at the engineering level, you may just have preliminary designs so that you evaluate your project on the feasibility. Then we have preliminary designs, we have detailed designs, we have construction. Once you construct, you test and commission. Then the client, the owner of the project, takes their project, they start using it, but the contractor is still liable to any damages, and they rectify in any case. Then we have operation and maintenance, and then we have commissioning, decommissioning of the project. And at all these stages, your expertise are very needed, very important. In the past, maybe they were not taken seriously, but the way the engineering field is progressing, your expertise is becoming very important. At some point, your expertise even undertake more work than the engineering in itself. So what I wanted to achieve here is that you need to know the stage that you're dealing with, and the stage will determine how much you put into your project. You don't pick a pre-feasibility study project and start giving details that can only be obtained at detailed design. Or you don't take a detailed design project and you give very basic details that actually would have been presented at feasibility study. So this is basically what we're looking at. We may not have time to go into every stage, but the technology from the engineering part is will determine. The approach is the same. Engineering is the same, but the tools that we use at pre-feasibility are different from the tools that we'll use maybe at detailed design. And therefore, the kind of information that we will give or that you will obtain from the engineer's report vary with the stage. So in as much as the study will be the same, like hydrology, survey, geotechnical. All these are undertaken at all the stages, basically. Like pre-feasibility, feasibility, detailed design, all these, you have topo survey, you have hydrology, but now the tools that you use are different. And the more you go into the project, as you come towards construction, the more detailed tools that you have, and therefore, the more information that you will have for your reports. That was that was my overview of the project cycle, so that we know that as we proceed, I may be talking about a detailed design, but therefore you know that the level of input or output that you'll get from the engineering designs for your report vary. So you need to understand which level you are at your which project cycle, the phase of the project. So I'll go back to my structured presentation, and I'll run through the slides. The water infrastructure, this is mainly the public infrastructure. We have the listed categories, mainly the dams. That's what I'll talk about. The water supply systems. We have boreholes. I don't know whether sanitation was an area that you wanted to look at, but I just included the slide. So if the focus was only water, I'll leave it at water. But if sanitation is also part of it, you just let me so that I covered. This is just an image to try to bring ourselves to what a project component looks like and the way it changes the environment. On your left is a project. This is one of the projects that I participated in. I was mostly in the project management. This is Karimenu Dam in Gatundu. It was completed in 2022-2023 and is currently operational. It's a dam project where you build a wall across the river, and then you block the river. You can see that upstream there is an impoundment, and then you have the wall. The dam is what blocks the river. That wall that blocks the river, that you can build using rocks, you can build using concrete, and then the water behind the dam, the water that is held, is the reservoir. So a layman language, you can just call everything the dam, but at least you should be able to understand the difference between the dam and the reservoir itself. We have components for the dam that ensure that it functions the way it's supposed to be. The one to your right is a project called Diamo. It's in Maralan. This is also one of the projects that I was involved in, from design to construction. It was located in a protected area, and now you can see, before the project probably you had trees all over, but then now you do the clearing, and then you have a new kind of environment. So the dam blocks the river, and then you have water impounding behind the river, and then to the east, that is to your right of the same image, is a camp. This is a contractor's camp. So you see that we had a forest, and now we have a camp within the forest, changing the ecosystem. There's also, we have an access road that takes you away from the dam. The one heading to the east, that is to the right hand side, that takes you out of the forest. This is you clear the road, and then you maram it. Most of the projects that are in the protected areas, they don't have tarmac road, so you end up with the Maram access road. So within this image, let me discuss the one on the right. You have the dam wall that blocks the river, and then you have an intake. An intake is a concrete structure. I think you look at the one in the left, it appears much better. To your extreme left, towards the upper corner, there's a concrete structure that you access using a bridge. This one. So you have a concrete structure within the dam that you used for abstracting the water. Then there's a bridge accessing the dam. Then the dam wall is this one. We talked about the water behind the dam wall is the reservoir. On the left is the spillway. I think it's more clear. Let me show the one for, this is Yamo, the one for Yamo. The spillway is on the left. Now, in dams, you talk about, when you want to give a reference, you talk about the right-hand side and the left-hand side. So you stand facing the downstream where the water is flowing. Like if you stand here, the one where the cursor is will be the right-hand side, the one to the south, that is the right-hand side. Then the left-hand side is the one towards the north. So you give direction in dam projects when you are facing where the water is flowing downstream. So on the left-hand side, that is the access road that is used for operation and maintenance and also accessing the dam. So in this project, you'll have the wall, the dam wall, made of maybe concrete, rocks, or earth material. Then the intake, which is inside the impounded water. That's where you get your water from. There are pipes inside that concrete structure. So you have the dam, the intake, to the right-hand side, the spillway, in case of there's excess water. And then behind the dam, this project had a powerhouse. So behind the dam, you find the powerhouse, and then the environmental flow also pass under the dam to join the river downstream. So we have different components. And like for a dam, mainly you have the spillway, the dam wall, the access road, the intake structure. So you need to be able to know the different kinds of the structure and how they are supposed to be evaluated, how they affect how they come into your report, basically. I will move to the next slide. Now, before I move, I just use an example of a dam. When you talk about river intake, it's just now a smaller wall. It's just a wall across the river, blocking the river. So the components are basically more or less the same. Not shown here, associated to a dam project is a treatment works, which will now be downstream. Then you have pipelines. Then you have storage tanks and all that. Let's first, let me just brief you just an overview of what we have in the dam. That is what we have just talked about mostly in the previous slide. We've said that the dam can be built from earth material, which is basically rock. You break the dam and decompact them, or you can use just normal common material, the material that you find in the area. It doesn't have to be a rock. You can just take the soil that you find in the area and you compact well to some standards. So if you use a rock, we call it a rock fill dam. If you use just common material that does not meet the rock standard, just the normal material that you just excavate around, you call it earth fill dam. Then if you use concrete, you call it gravity dam. And earth dam is just a kind of concrete dam. So basically what we have highlighted here, and the common ones in Kenya, are the earthfill dam, rockfill dam, and the concrete dams. Each of these projects, like now, the concrete is heavier and is able to, it is supposed to hold the water. And when it is heavy, it means that even the water will not push it. It will be able to retain the water even with a small footprint. So if you have earthfill dam, it means you'll need a lot of material, and your footprint will be wide. You'll have a very large. And when you're talking about a concrete dam, you'll cover a smaller area when you're doing the dam. When you use an earthfill, you cover quite a lot of area. So the way it affects your report, you need to understand the kind of dam. When you read our report, you'll be able to know how each type of dam affects what is expected basically from your side, so that you don't have a concrete dam and then you have a you talk about very large. Then what you need to get from the dam is the full supply level. Where does the water extend to when the water is full? You need to know that. We call it the full supply level when it's not flooding. But when water is flooding, we call it maximum flood level. So the full supply level is when the water dam is full, but it's not flooding. But when it's flooding, water extends, and we normally provide freeboard. So you need to know that, and you also need to know about the dead storage. When you are blocking the waterway, like when you block the waterway, all the sand, all the sediment that were upstream will come and accumulate behind your dam. And with time, your dam will get filled. So you need to know the dead storage level, how much you have allowed for in your dam just to take care of the sediment. So you need to know about the different levels. We call them operation levels for the dam. And the key ones are the maximum flood level, full supply level, and dead storage. Those are the key ones. And also, you need to know how much area is covered by the water. Now, when you are doing a dam, when you are constructing a dam, you need to ensure that water does not overtop. Water does not go over your wall, because like now for this earthfill dam, if water passes over it will start eroding downstream, and therefore your dam will become weaker because the strength is in the wall, the massive wall. When you start eroding downstream, it becomes weaker. So you make sure that the excess water is passed safely. When the water is too much, it doesn't overtop the dam. It's passed through a channel, and that's where we have the spillway. So you need to know about the spillway and how it is controlled. The gates, do we have gates or is just an open channel? And what are the levels that are allowed to have? So these are very key aspects of your report that you really need to take care of. The spillway details, the control mechanism for the spillway. When mostly in Kenya, we use open channels. We don't use gates because maintenance can become an issue for some countries, and therefore you just use an open channel so that you don't need to control it. When the water is full, it just passes by itself. Then you also need to know how much area is covered, and this one comes to land acquisition. Like now, for example, in Yamu, on the right, this was a forest. Now you cut down the forest, and now it's now a different thing. On the one for Karemenu, this was an area with residents, people doing their farming and all that. Then now you cover so much land and you change the land use. So it's important to know how much your dam is covering, because it will affect, it also multiplies how much it affects the environment. Then sedimentation, we have guidelines on how we size for this, we estimate the sediments, and how we ensure that we are provided for the storage and all that. So, also not all the sediments are retained. You also flush, there's also flushing of the dam. There's that goes with the environmental flow and all that. So you need to know about the sedimentation of the dam. That's the brief overview of the components in a dam and some of the details that you need to look at. Then I'll proceed to water supply. I think this one is a bit more familiar because we have more water supplies. And the water supply, even dam is a water supply, but we categorize the dam differently because of the investment that goes in and the kind of studies that we have. I'll talk about a water supply. Maybe this now combines the dam. We talked about an intake, how you get water from the dam, or you could have a river intake. That's now the source. The source could be a well, it could be a dam, it could be a river, and all that. Then you get the water, and when you get it, you pass it downstream. Mostly we avoid locating our TWACs upstream because of the issue of energy. But it's also a way of conveying our water. But mostly we work with gravity systems. And then you take the water through using a pipe. Where it passes, it's a corridor. You need to create a corridor. If it's a forest, you need to excavate. You need to clear and then excavate, lay the pipe. Then you get to the TWACs, where you treat your water. And treatment, you use a lot of chemicals. There are kinds of treatment that you undertake. First, when the water comes, it could have sediments. So there's physical treatment where you allow the water to settle, the sediments to settle. Then we also have you could be having chemicals that are not potable, not healthy for consumption. Then you have chemical treatment. We have biological treatment. And mainly here, the idea is that you use chemicals, and now that will affect even your downstream users, how you dispose that, all that. Once you treat your water through the physical, chemical, biological, then you store your water in a tank. Now that is now part of biological treatment. You put some maybe chlorine, so that even as the water goes through the pipes, it gets some contaminated pipeline. You are able to continue keeping the water clean using the chlorine. So after the clear water tank, then now you can take water and distribute it to the users using a distribution system, which is mainly pipes. In the system, you could be having tanks, so that you convey the pipe long distance, then you distribute it from a given tank within the supply area. So what actually you need to look at in the system, you need to know the capacity of the system and what has been designed for. how much water do we use daily for the area that you're serving, and what are the peaks that have been used. Peaks in that you need to cater for times when the water is not flowing the normal flow, like the patterns in which the human behaviors. You find everybody wakes up at one time, almost the same time, then the system is overloaded, everybody wants water, and then they go to work. When they go to work, there are some areas that now the flows are reduced, and then maybe at some point within the day, the demand goes up, and then maybe finally at midnight or so, you don't have the water flowing in the system. So the system is designed with average demands and flows, but there are also extra ways of ensuring that your system provides. Sorry. Then also in the system, you should allow for some, as per restrictions. Sorry, as per the regulations. You can provide fire fighting reserve. So you need to know in your system what are the demands, and then these are the sources. We have rivers, we have dams, what here we call reservoirs. You can have boreholes and all that. Here you have the ground sources. Then after the sources, we have the treatment. There are different kinds of treatments that you have. And as mentioned earlier, that in the treatment, what you would be interested in, mostly in your case, is how the chemicals that come from the treatment are taken care of. You know, you use so many chemicals in a treatment plant. How do you handle the sludge? How do you clean the tree works itself, the chemicals used? So in your report, you should be able to understand that this is the kind of treatment work that I'm working with, and these are the chemicals that will come out. How is the sludge handled? In some cases, you find the sludge is taken back to the river without any treatment. How do your report should be able to capture the designer, the engineer, the engineering aspect of the design. How do they take care of the sludge after their treatment? Then we have tanks, which also maybe you need some land for them. You need to locate them. So you need to ensure that the correct details, like now area covered by each reservoir, is captured. Then the next briefly is on the boreholes. This is now the underground water. The underground water sources, the kind of surveys we do are different. And you start with what we call geophysical, where you try to estimate the underground, the water table and all that. There are techniques that we use to see the underground profiles, so that you're able to know where the water table is and the kind of water table that you have, whether it's one which is just a free, some water tables are just a free unconfined water table, and then there are these that are between impermeable layers, so that when you dig the borehole, it's able to come to the surface out of the aquifer by under pressure. So you need to know which kind of aquifer are you dealing with. You need to read the report, hydrogeological report, on how much yield you can get from the from the borehole, the issues of depletion. So, and also is the area, what is the area that you need to protect so that your water is not affected. So you need to look at such issues on the risk of depletion, how much is the system able to yield sustainably, and then is there areas that any issues that can infiltrate into your system and contaminate the water. All these are the things that you need to get from the engineer's report. I don't know whether sanitation is part of it, Chair.
Yes, it is part of it.
It's part of it. So quickly on sanitation, most of the times we provide water, then we don't provide the sanitation part of it because maybe sustainability is not looked at, or the funds we have can only allow for water, but sanitation is part of water. So there are two main kinds of sanitation approaches. Either you could be having where you collect the dirty water, the sewage, from the units, and then you go treat it away, that is off-site. So in that case, you'll need sewer lines that connect to the residentials or the buildings. Then you need a gravity system or pump system and take it far away. Then you go treat it maybe in ponds or use some technology. For example, in Nairobi, you take it from so many areas. Most of them go to Ruai. Mostly a gravity and maybe a few pumping. But the idea is that you, like in urban system, you prefer, because the soil cannot take so much on site, you collect the sewer and take it away and then go treat it. So in that aspect, you will have the sewer lines, and then you will have the treatment plants that treat the sewer. Yes, and then the things that you need to look at in the report is the designed capacities of the system. When there's no, when the sewer is running normally, like now, it's only collecting the water from the houses and then taking to the treatment. That is this, what is the size. But now, like in a place, time like now in Nairobi, where it's raining and you have so much infiltration getting into your system, so you need to capture those when the environment is dry and when the environment is wet and there's so much infiltration into your system. What are the sizes? And then you need to look at whether it's a gravity system, the pumping stations. You know, when you're pumping, it means that the easier way of doing it is that you let the sewer flow into maybe a septic tank, then you pump it. But then now, sometimes the pumping out is slower, and then now you end up with at the pumping station, there's the overflows from the septic tanks that are holding the sewer. So these are the things that you need to look at when you are maybe working with a project, sanitation project that is pumped. And then also you need to look at whether the sewer is combined or separate. Separate is where you have the dirty water from the residentials, per se, to the treatment plants do not mix with the runoff. There are countries where you can mix both and then you go treat. So you have combined system and separate system. So you should be able to understand that the sewer system that I'm looking at, is it a combined system where the runoff mixes with the dirty water, the sewage from the users, or is it a system where the runoff does not mix with the sewage? Mostly in Kenya, we go for separated system because the runoff it just increases the capacity of your pipes and even the treatment plants. We also need to be careful how maybe near rivers, it's a common thing. If your project has a river, you need to assess the risk of the sewer going overflowing into the rivers or the wetlands. On treatment plants, there are so many treatment technologies, but the common one is where you use treatment ponds. So the overall system is where you start with screening, and then you do primary settlement of the sediments, and then you go to biology. I don't want to go into the detail of these. I think if we do that, I'll not be able to cover some of the slides that are, but you need to look at the technology that you are using for treating. And we have the most common ones in Kenya is the stabilization ponds, where you retain the sewer in a pond, the sewage in a pond over a long period, and then you let the biological treatment of the same take place. Okay, then some of the things that you look at is once the sewer is treated, what goes back to the system? Maybe it's a river outflow. What is the concentration? We call it the BOD. Is it reduced to the contamination, the dirtiness, is it reduced to a level that is accepted as per our regulations? And the main authority we have is NEMA. So they have set clear guidelines. So when you get our report, you look at what output of our system against the set regulations. Then how do we handle the sludge? Once you treat the sewage, then the sediment, the sludge falls. When you come and scoop it, how do you handle it? How do you dispose it? These are the things that really need to be clear on our report so that you have a better report. So as part of the team, your expertise and the engineers walk through the design and construction period, and you're able to monitor at every level whether we are following the regulations. And also, even for the ponds or the treatment plants, where they're located, you take a report and you look at maybe settlements, the wind direction and all that. You need to be sure that we follow the regulation. So our report should be able to portray to you that we have located the pond or the treatment plant in a place that it will not be a nuisance to the population, or it may not be flooded when it rains. Then we also have on-site systems. These are mostly ablution blocks. We are familiar with this. I'll not take much time on this, and there are guidelines on how these ones are designed. And once in a while, like if you have ablution block, how you empty the septic tanks, the report needs to come out clearly that this is the technology that we'll use. Maybe you'll use exhausters, and where do they take it after you exhaust it from the septic tanks? Where do they take it? How do you dispose the sludge and all that. With that, we have covered basically the dam, the components of the dam. We have covered components of water supply, and then you have covered the underground water, and then brief on sewer collection, how you get it from the buildings and you take it far away to the treatment points, and then you have covered the treatment points, things you need to look at when you are reading our report or when you are doing your studies. Then the on-site. Next will be some brief on actual project cycle. I'll not stay much on this, but it's important to know that your work mainly starts, okay, your review starts in the planning, but the real work starts once you have an inception, and then you are able to undertake work with the designer in every stage. So the general phases are the identification. I remember we talked about a master plan that I picks a project, and then there's pre-feasibility, then there's feasibility, then there's details, design, then there's procurement, construction, and operational maintenance. You need to be able to follow this so that you don't ask maybe some question on detailed design, which you should be able to ask at feasibility study. Like at feasibility study, we have project options. So you need to go to feasibility study report to look for the options. And you'll find that most of the times the detailed design does not necessarily have to refer to the project options. It's something that most people like when they're evaluating somebody's report, they ask you which options do you have, and most likely you'll find that a detailed design, if you are writing a report at detailed design, you'll not be able to get the options that were evaluated at feasibility. So you need to know where to look for the data. Like when a project has been maybe evaluated and found not feasible, it may not, that maybe particular site where the project is located or that option may not proceed to the detailed design. So when you go to our report and then you don't find those options, then it's you need to ask if there are feasibility. Then you go back and look at the feasibility study report, and most likely that's where you'll find the options that you are looking for. So be familiar with the different stages and the kind of content that they have. The main work for ESIA is maybe ESIA report, and probably somebody may ask, when does it come in? Mostly it comes at feasibility, but before that, at project inception, you should have identified approach on how you do it. So you will do a lot at earlier stages, but your report at feasibility will have most of the details that you need in order to do a report that comply with the regulations. We are mostly regulated by NEMA and WRA. So in that case, you really need to work so much, read more of the feasibility study so that you're able to get your data that you need. And also sometimes your reports may come too early, that the engineers have not done most of their work. or your report may come too late when we have already analyzed our options and thrown away some. So it's good to know, to get involved at every stage of the project cycle. Pre-feasibility study, these are very initial stages where you look at so many options, and then you come up with the project that you want to pursue. And mostly it starts by somebody going to site and looking at getting familiar, undertaking a reconnaissance for the studies. Then once you get familiar with the project, you come and do your desk studies, you evaluate further. Then you proceed to the engineering studies, hydrology, topographical, and maybe geotechnical, evaluating those project options. And at every stage, the EIA expert and ESIA team have things that they pick from every stage. So I understand that you are familiar with what you need to pick, but now you should be here. You should be able to screen early enough and see where the project is heading, and it changes your strategy and how you undertake the study. Then at feasibility, you now do more of a topo survey. Now for example, let me take maybe a dam project. It will be easier to explain what the studies that we do. Maybe for a dam project, you need to know who you are serving and where they are located. So first you map them. That's where now the topography comes in, the topographical survey. So you map out, you have a project layout, so that you have where the source is, if there are pipelines, if there's a treatment, and the people they are serving. Or if you have a borehole, you need to have a project layout. And every component of the project passes through. Like now, if you, for example, in a dam, you have it in a forest. From your side, you will be able to look at the kind of things you need to look at when you're dealing with the forest. For the pipeline, it can be passing along the roads. So the road is a shared facility. There are people doing businesses and all that. So you know the kind of stakeholders that you work with. And basically, you need to, every project component, there are things that you screen and look at what you need to pick up from them. Then at the engineering is when now we start giving you the hydrology report, which will tell you how much water we have in the system from the rivers. We need to tell you about the geotechnical investigation. There are different kinds of investigations. Some, for example, you do excavations and analyze the soil. So you have that, and also the topographical survey will tell you the elevations, different elevations in the system. Then this one we use for preliminary sizing of our system, so that when you have like a water system, we need to tell you how much water we are getting for the system, that is the demand, and what is the yield. If we have a dam, what is the height? If you have a pipeline, how many kilometers? And what are the size of the pipe? Is it diameter maybe 200? Is it 300? If you have a treatment works. So we have preliminary designs, and then we have what is the cost of the project. At feasibility, we go up to 15%. So the value that we come up with, then we contingency, we have 15%. Then the same procedure, the same details that we had at feasibility is what we proceed with to detailed, but now we refine them. And then at this point, you'll be able to know the dam height, or if it's a river, where the length of the crossing. If it's a pipeline, you have the pipe, you have the material, we have the diameter, the kilometers. If it's a tank, you have the tank size and all that. Then we have the BOQs. Maybe this may not be for you, but we have BOQs that now can be used for tendering. But it's important to know that even your environmental monitoring program during construction, all the things that you identified, like now when you're engaging with your stakeholders and you come up with things that the project need to take care of, they all need to be put in a BOQ. Otherwise, you will have proposals, you have recommendations, you promise the stakeholders, project affected persons, you promise them so much, but the funds to manage the promises you gave to them are not put in the BOQ. So you need to give the engineer your input, and then he packages them and then put them in the BOQ. So this one is not well taken care of, but it's a serious challenge that maybe as we go ahead, maybe in future, you need to be keen on them, so that when you engage a stakeholder and make commitments, ensure that that commitment is taken into the engineering so that it's put in the BOQ. If it's not in the BOQ, then it will not be undertaken. And then you end up being the bad expert who promised and did not deliver, and then the project starts having conflicts. But the public will not understand why things are not moving. But the issue is that whatever you promised were not captured by the engineer, and they are not put in the bills, and therefore there's no way they can be paid for, and then you start having contract issues. And then we have a tender document that is just what the contractor will use. And then the issue of land acquisition and all that, that's taken in the RAP, and including that RAP, land acquisition issue, all those are taken care of when preparing the project budget. In other words, the bills of BOQs. So from the engineering projects, this is, I think you're familiar with this. You need to do scoping, you need to do surveys, baseline surveys, you need to do a draft report, you need to submit to NEMA, and then you need to come up with environment safeguard and management plan, and maybe RAF. And all these, at the end of the day, have to come up to some budget, and that budget has to be in the engineer's tender documents and the BOQ. So it's important that you know that you are a very important part of the project. So your report then therefore should be of good quality, so that all these are captured and put in the budget. We'll just go through some of these components, but I think we have mentioned most of them. Let me just run through the components of a water supply, and maybe we'll be able to confirm whether we mentioned them. We have the kind of intakes we have river intake, where you maybe construct a concrete small one on the river, and then you tap, you just use it, it's just to raise the height so that you're able to tap the water. You can have a river, and then you dig a well, infiltration chambers, you dig a well next to it, so that water does not, you don't tap it directly, but then the water goes into that well, and then you from there, you maybe pump it to the users. It's important you know how much you are getting from that. So your volume, for example, in meter cubic per day, if I talk of a river intake, the first question that should come to my mind, what is the abstraction rate? If it doesn't contain that, then you are in a big trouble. So the first thing is the abstraction rate, and then look at the levels. What level are you taking this and what level are you taking that? That may not be very critical for you, but it's very important to communicate that. Then when you do a river, you need to ask the engineer, how do you control things like, now that if you, like a dam, if you don't allow for the fish to pass, how is there a way of managing that? Those impacts of that structure, those are need to come out clearly. And how, if the engineers have considered ways to mitigate them. Most of our designs do not mitigate, and there are so many issues. Maybe from your side, you know, for the engineers, they may just want the water and their interest ends there. But now, from your side, you need to come out clearly whether these mitigations were captured in the report. You can ask, you know, we have during the project's life cycle, you attend meetings. You should be able to raise these issues. If there's a dam blocking the river, then you ask, have you designed for passage of the fish? How have you taken care of such issues? So if you know that the fish will completely be blocked, then the design should be able to capture, but some do not capture, because you change the system, you change the ecosystem, and you know the interests were not taken care of, though the project still proceeds. Then you need to be able to understand about abstraction permits. We have a system with the NEMA and WRA, Water Resources Authority. Water Resources Authority gives the license, but the way they work with NEMA is so close that WRA will ask you to get NEMA's approval, and NEMA will ask you to get WRA's approval. So it's a very closely integrated system. But generally, you need to you basically start from NEMA, where you go with your design reports, you go with your ESIA reports, you go with the technical and the financial evaluation of your project, the studies. Then, because they will, when they evaluate and approve that you have complied, you have engaged the public and all that, they'll give you an okay, which will be an input at NEMA, because NEMA will ask you, have you done a survey, hydrological survey? Have you evaluated the technical capacities and all that? Have you engaged the public? And public engagement is well defined at NEMA. So then, in other words, they're asking you to issue evidence that we followed NEMA guidelines. Then they'll give you a permit to construct. And you remember, NEMA was also okay due to construct. So once they give you a permit to construct, you have not yet received a permit to abstract water. Once you construct as per the requirements, then you will now be given a permit to extract. WRA will now give you a permit to extract a given amount of water over some period. And you know, maybe then this one will be renewed maybe 5 years. So every 5 years, they need to check whether you are still following the NEMA guidelines, and then you renew the report. So it should be clear that permit to construct is different from permits to abstract. And it should be clear that you are only allowed to extract a given volume. so that water is a shared, like now a river is a shared resource. So you have to be clear on what you are given, and then you don't exceed that. When you talk about river wares, you need to understand the kind, but this is not, I think this one we have talked on earlier. Whether it's a gated ware or all that, most of our wares are not, you're able to you design a system that does not need much of attention, so that the system is able to operate with minimal maintenance, operation and maintenance. Then you also need to know from a river the flood levels. This one is important. You need to know, the rain, there's a pattern and there's some magnitude of rain that comes once in a while. Maybe once in 20 years, once in 50 years, one in 100 years, one in 10,000 years, one in maybe 13,000 years. All that you need to know what the law says, that when you are doing a river ware, I'm supposed to design for what return period. Return period is basically saying that the rain of this magnitude happens. What are the chances of it happen? Maybe in 20 years is when this one will happen. Maybe in 50 years we have not seen this kind of magnitude. So once in a while, some magnitude of rain comes in, and you need to look at the report and say that the levels, maybe the level of the wares, the designer looked at all these return periods, so that he doesn't build a structure that when a rain of maybe 1 to 50 year comes, is overwhelmed and the area is flooded. So you need to be keen on taking note of the design floods. And then we have said that the river crosses the wares and the dams, they close the river. How is the sediment handled? How is the fish and aqua life handled? That how much land is submerged upstream? So you need to look at those, and also you need to look at now that you have blocked the river. Are there other projects downstream? Are they taken care of, or you just build your water and then now the people downstream are not able to get their water? This one is different from the environmental flow. That is guaranteed. Every project must have environmental flow. But now, what about the downstream users? You need to look at those. Then on the pipeline, which kind of material are used? The materials that are not permitted as per regulations, because they can be harmful. Some are difficult to dispose when you are done with them, how to dispose them. So you need to look at the materials. Just don't say that the pipe is 5 kilometers and it's DN 100. You need to look at the material, and the report should bring out that. You need to look at the well leaves for the pipeline. If there's a pipeline that has been placed in a region, then even the human activities taking place there change. So you should be able to from our report, you should be able to pick up that there's a pipe and this is the well leaf. Then even during construction, now when you talk about a well leaf, and assuming that you are doing a project in a forest, things like site clearing and all that is need to be taken care of. You don't provide, and then there's not even a way of excavating and removing the waste, or you excavate and you don't shape the channel, the embankment or the excavation. You see somebody can dig and then they don't shape it so that the slope will fall by itself. You need to look at those. If there's a river crossing, how do you cross the river? Is the person, have you provided for a way of crossing the river? No, assuming that maybe for like now sewerage, how do you cross it? Or even the normal pipe. Is the pipe just running on the river? Then it will now block the water and then creating a dam. How do you lay it? Do you dig a tunnel or do you just excavate and open the river? So those are the things that you should be able to capture in your report. And then the most important one is on the environmental flow. As the design provided for environmental flow, or because people are competing for water, somebody has a project and they want to take all the water and then kill the life downstream. These are well outlined in the Water Act, and also NEMA will show you the guidelines on how to, on the percentage that you can get. The figure of there's a figure that there's a 95%. You must allow some water to pass. That 95% of the time will always be in the stream to support the life downstream. So make sure that a report has this environmental flow, and it was obtained from hydrological study. So if your report does not have hydrological study and then environmental flow is not provided for, then probably you don't have a good report. That is basically all for what I prepared for, and just to show you some of the documents that we use for our designs. With a very old, there is one called Ministry of Water Irrigation Practice Manual. It was published in 2005. It will give you guidelines on how a water supply is supposed to be. It will tell you about the criteria, the heads that need to be available, how to locate them, the velocities and all that. And then there is a manual for dams, for small dams. We don't have a manual for large dams, but we rely on the international publications. There's one for ICOLD. There are also various international community who are very generous and share their documents, like the USBR. So you need to, if you want to know something about small dams and water pans, you have that Ministry of Water Practice Manual published in 2015. For sewerage, there is a manual published in 2008. And then all our projects for water start from population data. You need to agree on who are you serving. You want to serve them up to which period. So, for example, if your report does not speak about the design life, that this project is supposed to serve people who maybe 2030, 2050. We have immediate, we have future, and then we have ultimate. So make sure that your report says that ultimate demand design for this project is this, and then this is the future and all that. For us to estimate that, we start from the Bureau of Statistics, National Bureau of Standards. The latest is 2019. Then we have some World Health Organization guidelines. Then there is a WASREB that regulates and reports on the water supply. You can also look at their report. They produce regular reports. Then we have the Water Act, that is an act of parliament. This one is the backbone, something you need to look at. It will even tell you about those environmental flows, how much a permit cannot exceed and all that. Then we have a national master plan. This one is not popular, but it's there. if you have time, you can look at it so that you know that this project that I'm doing did not just start here. The planning started 20 years ago, 50 years ago. And then also the counties have their integrated master plans. They have plans but they're not very good, but some counties have good ones. So these are the documents that generally guide the shape of our study. So these are just some quick takeaways that it's important that you read our reports. And remember, you are a member of the study from inception, from the kickoff. Once a consultant has gotten a contract, the first is to have a kickoff, to bring a team and prepare inception. At this point is where you come and identify stakeholders. Engineers don't identify stakeholders, but your expertise identify the stakeholders. You say here there's a Ministry of Water, there's a water agency like at the water, there's a service provider like Nairobi Water, there are schools, there's a county, there are the people who will be affected, the PAPs who will be immediately affected, there are politicians. At this point, this is at the start of the point, at the start of the project, you map all those stakeholder management plan. Then now, as the project proceeds, they will be receiving updates from you, so that there's an engagement, a stakeholder engagement plan will be implemented right from the kickoff to project design, project construction, and all that. Then you should be able to follow a project from start to end. If it is a water project, start from the source. Where is the source? Where is the treatment? Where is the pipeline? Where is the storage? I don't do a report that has tanks or has pipeline, but the pipeline have no tanks. So be able to capture all the components, and remember every component have different effects. Like now, a dam will block the river. It will impound the river. If people are settling there, the water will they'll have to be relocated. If there's a pipeline, it will pass through farmland also, or it will pass through somebody's open business, kiosk and all that. And when a pipe passes, maybe in a farmland, you cannot build on the pipeline, but you can maybe farm. So every component has different effect. If it's a sewer, you follow it from where it got from the building to the end of the project. So we remember that at feasibility, you'll do a lot of your study, but the screening starts at inception. And then don't forget about the environmental flow. Ensure that the hydrological report says this is how much water is available, but the environmental flow is this. Don't take all the water, otherwise we'll be killing life downstream. And that should be all. Thank you all for your time.